from commitment to implementation. Next slide. No. Okay. Now, I'm not going to spend so long on the slide to catch up with time, and also because we know the problem. It's a huge opportunity that clean cooking can provide. We know that it really is something that's been challenging the development community for a long time. It is an multi-sectoral issue. It requires investment by the energy sector, but the environment sector as well, the health sector, the gender, all sorts of sectors need to be engaged. So how can we, as the UN community, UN energy community, advance this more effectively, collectively, right? I really think this is a collective problem for collective action, and we will never do it effectively the way on our own. So this is what this is really about, how we can synergize efforts on the ground to really deliver in a coordinated and efficient fashion. Next slide, please. So again, this is just highlighting again the numbers. We're at 2 billion, still relying on polluting fuels and technology. We got 1.8 billion by 2030 if we don't make some changes. So we don't need to reiterate this. We know we're behind, but I think we need to change the dialogue that we can do it, right? We have the possibility as collectively working together more effectively. Next slide, please. Oops, there. Okay. So we actually launched this in COP in 29. This was a network for clean cooking transition to net zero by 2050 that was put together. So this kind of sets out a nice strategic framework for us. This was something that was discussed a long time, really trying to look at how we can continue to make progress and advance and leverage the current attention that we are working on to really achieve a net zero world in the future. So this kind of sets specific targets for us, and I would highly encourage you to look at this. But this is also helping us kind of frame where we're going with this country action implementation plan for the ground. Next slide, please. This is I don't want to go into too much details, but this kind of, again, sets this framework forth. We're really trying, we see that, maybe choosing universal access to clean fuels and technology for cooking by 2030 may not be feasible at this moment. However, we need to still set small milestones. And we do think that eliminating cooking poverty by 2030 is something that we can still work towards collectively. And as well as transitioning to modern energy cooking solutions by 2040, universally, and ideally net zero by 2050. But this is ambitious, but again, something that we can work towards together if we are really working synergistically and effectively and efficiently. Next slide, please. There's a little delay, apparently. There we go. Okay. So we have our really long-term vision, and that is really still advancing the dial on clean cooking and really working towards this universal access. And we acknowledge 2030 may not be possible, but we are still working to make certain milestones achievable, and to do so, we need to be working together more. So in this whole country action platform, we have developed a variety of sets of kind of milestones and deliverables. We have some very short-term, low-hanging fruits within the UN energy community to work better towards advancing this clean cooking. These are essentially working together to achieve this long-term goal of really universal access to clean cooking for all. Something that we have come to collectively, because this initial vision was launched last year at the HLPF as well, where we kind of set forward the general framework. And over the past year, we have been discussing and consulting among UN energy partners at how best we can come together a bit more and work more effectively on the ground. One thing that we thought initially was really important would just be having a very low-hanging fruit is UN Energy Clean Cooking Catalog country support. It's a nightmare for a country who's like, I'm going to take clean cooking on and then just figure out where they need to go to find all the tools and resources. UN energy partners have a massive number of resources and information, knowledge to share, but it is not easy to find. So something that we wanted to, a low-hanging fruit to really show is that we bring together UN energy partners' resources together in one kind of repository. So this is one kind of a snapshot, and we're going to be asking UN energy partners in the coming weeks to help give us a website that they can link to allow countries to quickly find information collect more easily to work on the ground with. We're also looking at an events calendar for clean cooking so that we can have more common voice to really really propagate our message more effectively and more broadly. And then indeed, we're also looking at exploring a UN Energy Clean Cooking webinar series, again, to showcase the great work of UN Energy partners and to facilitate the knowledge sharing, because a lot of action and learning is happening on the ground, and we need to find ways to better communicate that. And I think the UN Energy system is a great opportunity to do that, and our UN Energy partners can really elevate the work of their constituencies on the ground to share that knowledge more effectively through the community. So these are some of the very short-term deliverables that we're making progress on. Next slide, please. And then this is one thing. This is the baby. Okay. I think this is really where we can really have a big, powerful impact as UN Energy partners in the ground. Is really trying to work together collectively at the same time. I think over time, I've talked to countries, and one group will come in and talk about an environmental issue on clean cooking. And then 6 months later, another UN Energy partner will come in and talk about health, for example, another partner about finance, another 6 months later. That's very difficult to actually do a very proper programmatic thinking and planning and policy decision-making aspect. So the idea is for us in the UN Energy system to come together at the same time to provide that support in an integrated manner, in the hopes that this will actually help promote that multi-sectoral collaboration we need to do and really leverage the mandate and the strengths of the various institutions in an effective and efficient manner. So this idea is to basically, we will choose some pilot countries in each of the different regions over the next coming years, and we will plan integrated workshops and technical support on the ground amongst UN Energy partners at the same time. And at these particular meetings, these workshops, we also want to invite other regional focal points from different countries to also learn at the same time so that we can create and build the capacity at the regional level to replicate and really create this kind of a pattern, a transition, right? A real kind of collective action across regions as well, because there's a lot that can be had from actually learning from partner countries next door. And also there's added value of actually bringing infrastructure and discussion, decision making around energy planning across borders a bit more effectively as well, help really build the market and build up the supply chain that's necessary to really make that clean cooking available consistently, reliably, and affordable for the populations that need it most. So indeed, we are aiming to have these kind of where countries are having plans where we as UN Energy partners will come in and bring actually added value by providing integrated support at the country and promoting this kind of regional cooperation and basically facilitating that technical assistance that we can. So one of the first aspects that we're looking at in proof of concept is this idea of, for example, leveraging WHO's evidence on and normative guidance on what solutions can be clean for health and what's clean for health is it's clean for environment and clean for a lot of different aspects and helps promote gender, etc. So we work with the World Bank and then other UN Energy partners to really look specifically exploring on this idea of willingness to pay. Because looking at epidemiological research, we do see that there is some strong studies really suggesting that willingness to pay, health is something that drives the willingness to pay. So we can really better articulate that in awareness raising through that angle. This could be one way to really better engage the private sector and get them invested in saying that we're leveraging this health argument, this health labeling. We have ISO standards. Let's get an ISO standard with health considerations in there on those to help really create this market a little bit more integrated. And this is just one example, though. We can also do this with food, for example, food issues, as well as other aspects, environmental, gender, what have you. So we can come together and really leverage those particular touch points in a country that can help those entry points to accelerating clean cooking and decision making on the ground. Slide, please. Oh, and indeed, this is the flag that we have a huge number of partners with lots of interest and lots of resources again in the UN Energy family. And this is the time that we need. There could not be a better time for us to come together and work more effectively in a variety of communities. For example, we have GPA online and displaced populations, so we can really work with those various those people that are already struggling with a lot of challenges to really a low-hanging fruit would be helping their lives by providing clean cooking in these settings and humanitarian settings and these types of things. And then we have, for example, Energia. We'll hear from them soon about some of the gender angles, et cetera. So our next steps for this UN Energy Clean Country Action work is to really indeed gather more inputs and more contributions from different partners to really articulate very detailed plans for how we're going to roll this out on the ground. Identify some of those pilot countries where we intend to work with. And I think we have a few already potentially engaged and interested in taking this forward. We might hear from them a bit later. And then we really discuss how we can use upcoming regional events, global events to really raise awareness and continue this journey to clean cooking together amongst the UN energy community. That's the last one. Next one. I continue. As I continue to moderate, I have the pleasure of actually talking where we need to speak most, and that is where we have some countries, and some of we're going to hear from a couple countries where they can see that some of the great work they're doing to accelerate clean cooking. And really, first, we're going to hear from Brazil, where they're really looking at the health impact of like fuel stacking and focusing on indigenous populations, et cetera, and some of the work they're doing from the Ministry of Health of Brazil and how they cooperate with the Ministry of Energy and UN energy partners. And then we'll hear from Liberia. But first, I'd like to go ahead and share the floor, give the floor to Dr. Agnes Suarez da Silva, the Director of the Department of Environmental Health, Surveillance and Workers' Health at the Ministry of Health Brazil, to share a little bit of the work that's going on in Brazil. Over to you, Agnes.
Hi, Heather. Thank you for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here with you and all these distinguished guests in this panel discussing such important problem of public health. I'm sharing my slides. I'm not sure can you confirm you're seeing it?
We can see them. They're
okay.
On screen.
Okay, thank you. So I'll try to go quickly, showing a little bit where we are in this with household air pollution, what are our public policies and the perspectives, how we see it, particularly linking to how we think we can perform related to the SDG 7, and also thinking on the health impacts, what it means for us. Brazil is a very large country, and I think if we look at the history, it has been a long process going through this path from wood to LPG use. And it has a history of subsidies, but also in public policies. And there is a part of what happened in the transition, the energy transition, has to do with the urbanization. So from the 70s, Brazil, mid-70s or beginning 70s, from a rural country where 60 up to 70% of the population was in the cities, in some places, some states, with a much larger population in the rural areas, to currently 87% of the population in urban areas. But despite the advancements, and if you think how much we progressed in the energy access, still have approximately 11 million people. This represents around 5.5% of the population that still use wood or charcoal, but mostly wood for cooking, with data from 2023. This means that we have to look the differences inside Brazil, within Brazil, where the problem is concentrated, because that's the last part that's the most difficult to achieve, because it depends much more on directed public policies. And this is nowadays concentrated in the northeast region of the country. It's mainly rural in the whole country, and and if you look in the regional distribution, it's mainly in two states, in Maranhão and Piauí. So we know where most of the problem is. Although if we think in terms of a transition, Brazil does not have a high percentage of the population using solid fuels. But this does not reflect the total reality if we look of the distribution of the types of fuels used. What draws our attention at how much it is still contribute to death that can be attributable to household air pollution. And these are numbers that we have from estimated deaths based on what we know from literature applying to what the data we have, the real data we have in Brazil. And it has a large impact on the burden of disease in Brazil. This, I have you can see this is a public information. We have a panel where we provide this as the Ministry of Health, particularly because we think if we provide the information on the impact, we can also help accelerate the solutions. So it's available in a panel that you can see. It's the profiles, even if you look individually in each state, you find more information with this QR code. I was saying about this transition, and there are a number of decrees and laws that established this process. And I think it's interesting to note that in the 70s to accelerate the transition, part of what was done was to highly subsidize the use of LPG. And this was done also to improve by improving mostly the distribution, so access, logistics for the distribution, and this accelerated, but in a way it had a limit. With the urbanization, it became easier, but there was a limit for this. So it also shows that there was a dedicated project on energy efficiency and in a certain way to change the energy matrix in the country. But with all these limits, what happened is that only the subsidy did not reach more of the population that needed specific public policies to incorporate LPGs as the main fuel for cooking. And what we see is that although there were funds that were dedicated to this, only in the beginning of the this transition, first looking at how to apply this to the most in need. The first time there was a phase out from the subsidy for the general population, and then there was a starting phase of assistance to the poor, and so it was subsidized directly to the most poor in the whole country. Only in 2021 this became like a part of a federal legislation, and this was changed recently with a specific program that is combines the cash transfer linked to a unified a number, so people receiving already some type of cash transfer program. So it's linked to many other benefits, and it's linked also to, they are followed up in terms of gains, not only social gains, but also in terms of health gains. So they are linked to a different aspects of the public policies. So the Ministry of Mines and Energy, for instance, established the Department of Social Policies for LPG and promotion of clean cooking. At the same time, that was launched a program that provided free gas cylinder refuse to over 15 million families. This has an impact, is particularly in this population that is, we can say, it's still a lot, but it's the last mile to reach the whole the coverage and to accelerate the transition. This also has some connection with other programs that the Ministry of Development and Social Assistance, Family and Fight Against Hunger also connects, especially with programs that are linked to specific programs that are linked to improve nutrition, and many of the work on collective cooking, and some initiatives that are from the population, organized organizations that are work in communities, so community cooking, or some others that distribute food. So this transition is connected to all different initiatives. But still we have a problem to deal with it. And but this type of work we see already. These are not a long term. We cannot say how this will progress, but we can see that it does reflect in the data that is available. We can see that when we look at households by type of fuel used in food preparation, so it means when we look there, the use of firewood or charcoal, it is decreasing. And so we see there is, when we look at these fuels as primary use for food preparation, we see the decrease as well. So both mix and primary sources, they are decreasing. But this, we see there is a stocking, so there are different uses, and we see also some trend in the use of electric technologies for cooking that is rising in the last 10 years. So this is happening naturally, but we still have to work on the this small percentage of population, and that's concentrated in some areas, that needs to goes to at least the first layer and eliminate the solid fuels for cooking. The geographic distribution is clear when we see the clean versus pollutant. And that's what we are focusing and looking as elimination as a public health problem, as we are preparing this and work on this direction. And the first thing is it's exactly making the case for the intervention that will give some arguments also to the energy programs that are being prepared for this, to accelerate the transition. The SDG helps a lot to do this, to harmonize and to give some framework to assess what has been done. And we are also trying to see how to increase the evidence-based public health decision-making by improving our capacity to provide this information at the territory where the interventions should be made more strongly. So this is what I had to share with you. So thank you very much. And I think this is what we're saying is we want to put it as a public health health intervention when you provide clean energy. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Agnes. It's great to hear, and you touched on several of the things that we're really looking at, and indeed one of the, for example, these indicators and how we do aim under this UN-Energy integrated work to better enhance those indicators and really get a better chance. So a picture of what's happening on the ground. So this is just something that we can learn from and something that we'll need to showcase within this platform. So thank you so much. In light of time, I'm going to go ahead and turn to our next great country spotlight speaker. We're going to move continents from Latin America and South America. We are going to move to the African continent to start a discussion. So now I would like to kindly quickly turn to my colleague, Mr. Paul Quimini, from the Acting Director for Environment Occupational Health Unit at the Ministry of Health in Liberia. So this will be a nice compliment because we've heard the great commitments of the Ministry of Energy of Liberia, and I had the honor to speak to him earlier today. So this is really showing how we can, the UN Energy partners can connect these agendas a bit closer. So let me see if we can get, Paul, are you online? Can we get you up on the screen?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can. Great. Thank you, Paul. All right. So over to you. We're clicking the slides for you. Just tell us when to click, okay?
Good afternoon and good evening from my end. My name is Paul Quimini. I'm from Africa, Liberia. I'm glad to be part of this forum to share Liberia perspectives on cooking energy. Next slide, please. Okay, for Liberia, I'm going to basically share Liberia experience on few points. One has to do with the clean energy progress and the reality that exists. Firstly, currently we recognize that cooking energy is an issue or priorities within the health system. And not only the health sector is now becoming a concern for the environmental sector, the climate change, gender, and also sustainable development. The reason is that Liberia is currently one of those countries around the world that is heavily challenged when it comes to clean cooking. About 96% of the population relied on biomass fuel for cooking. And primarily these biomass fuel sources are from charcoal and that of firewood. Many of, about 83% of the rural communities use the firewood, while we have approximately 85 to 90% of those who in the urban area using charcoal. This continues to be a serious challenge, and we see that it's posing a public health issue, and that's why I have drawn the attention of the ministry to see how best we can work collaboratively with other sectors to address this issue. Next slide. What have we been doing so far? What are the progress Liberia have been making? One, quite recently, we secured some funding with the support of the Climate and Clean Air Coalitions through the UN Energy programs to conduct an assessment for clean energy cooking at household level across Liberia. Liberia is a country that is subdivided into 15 counties. We have about the populations of 5.3 million people. We have over 96% of households in Liberia that still use biomass fuel. This tells us that it's a concerning issue for the health sector to take a leading role on this. It's important that we have a kind of evidence that we can take around the table to initiate a discussion so the health sector can take a lead on these health issues. So to do that, we have been working with the WHO that is providing our technical assistance on how the assessment going to be done across the different areas. And we have prioritized this as issues that need to be incorporated into national policies. To incorporate this into national policy, the health sector must present evidence to guide the policy discussion around the table. So the ministry is taking a lead on this national survey, and we're going to work along with other sectors. We're going to work with the Ministry of Energy and Mines. We're going to work along with the Environmental Protection Agency, and we're going to also work along with the National Public Health Institute to carry on this nationwide assessment so as to establish the evidence to discuss this national issue. But through the support of UNDP, there have been other efforts being carried out in the rural part of Liberia. The picture there displays support from the United and the UNDP through the Environmental Protection Agency, working with local dwellers to manufacture eco stove. The eco stoves to be used as a means of reducing the pollution, the household pollution that have been caused by the use of biomass fuel across the different households in Liberia. Next slide. So what have been the challenges? Currently, the issue about stronger multi-sectoral collaboration have been a challenge. So we want to take a lead on these public health issues to bring other sectors on board to collaborate effectively to address this issue. Liberia needs to have a policy that can address this. And not only that, but to have a collaborative effort that can put the different policies into action to address this household need issue. Financing has been also a challenge. Technical capacity and data for decision-making have also been a challenge. This time, that's why the Ministry of Health want to take a leading role. And in taking this leading role, we have decided to mobilize resources to conduct a nationwide assessment on household energy use to determine the level of risk, to determine the reality that exists within the country, so that once we bring other partners, once we bring other sectors around the table, our discussion is going to be guided by a real-time evidence to push the solutions that are needed when it comes to addressing the issue of biomass fuel across Liberia that is causing high household pollution. So the ministry is now going to, through that assessment, now going to also design a robust behavior change campaign at the level of the local community to see how they can improve or they can adapt best cooking mechanism that will reduces the pollution at the household level. Like the photo you see there, that's the charcoal that been produced and sold, and that's what many of the people in the urban area used for cooking. Next slide. What are the opportunities to accelerate this action with the UN support? Liberia welcomes coordination with the UN Energy, and we also seek to advance clean energy in policy, in planning, in finance, and implementation. Health is fully integrated into our nationally determined contribution, focusing more on the local communities, particularly ensuring that awareness for behavior change is adopted by the local communities to improve the issue about cooking energy. Besides, we also thought that it's an opportunity to work with UN partners to provide complementary support across different health evidence in planning, climate change, qualities, and gender, as well as implementing different programs that will build capacities for the sector. Also, we want to align programs with the UN support to move from the initial planning point to a concrete and multi-sectoral actions, which will help our country to reduce the level of pollution experienced from biomass fuel. Also, we want to continue with technical and financial support, and then towards cleaner and healthier, more sustainable possible energy solution. Next slide. Thank you. This is so far what we can share for Liberia. Until we go into other different projects that we are earmarked, we are hoping that we could share more experience once we begin actual implementation of different activities across Liberia, especially where the health sector can take a lead on the different actions that need to be taken to address this public health concern. Thank you ever so much. I'm honored to be part of this great forum to share Liberia perspective. Thank you.
Many thanks, Paul. That was really a great way of showing the great work that Liberia is doing and how there is opportunity for the UN partners can really help in a different way, and how we're coming in at different angles, but now maybe in a coordinated fashion, we can really advance that further. So this is great. So now I have the pleasure. We're going to continue on the continent, and now we're going to have a panel discussion. So as we've heard earlier today, the launch of the SDG7 tracking report, that it is in sub-Saharan Africa, things that were slipping, and population growth is outpacing access to clean cooking. So we need to shift our attention to hear some of the success stories, but also some of the challenges that are being faced. Like the earlier spotlights, we want to hear about some of the cooperative work that's happening in Liberia, and Uganda. So we'll ask the panelists to hear a little bit more. But first, let's turn to Uganda, where we have several partners supporting the valiant efforts of the government. And I would propose we first hear from Mr. Herbert Abigaga, Assistant Commissioner of the Renewable Energy and head of the Clean Cooking Unit in Uganda's Ministry of Health and Mineral Development. Mr. Abigaga, are you there? Let's see if you're online.
Yes.
Okay, great. So just want to make sure I'm not asking a question to nobody. Would you please tell us a little bit about the work ongoing in Uganda to scale up clean cooking access in the country? And what approaches are you using to maximize the benefits of such efforts?
Thank you. Please confirm that you can hear me.
We can hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much. Over to you.
I know I have a problem with my camera, but a very great pleasure for me to be here. As you have mentioned, I'm called Herbert Abigaba. I work as an Assistant Commissioner at the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, where I also have the pleasure of leading the National Clean Cooking Unit that we've recently established, slightly over a year. Perhaps before I respond to you, Madam Chair, I wanted to start by stating that my immediate ex-minister was meant to be in this meeting, attending this session. However, she's had to be assigned on another assignment by His Excellency the President this afternoon, so she sends her apologies. And so I do not know if you can advise, she had shared and prepared a statement to deliver on behalf of Uganda. Do we go direct to the panel discussion?
I
I'll give it a short statement.
You'll share the statement?
No, he should just say this.
Okay, yes, please, please. If you could just go ahead and share the statement, that would be wonderful, Mr. Abigail.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me state again that it's my great pleasure to be here, particularly on behalf of the Clean Cooking Unit and the Ministry and my own behalf. It's very, very refreshing and enlightening to listening to the different presentations. So my great pleasure. And if you permit me, I will go direct to the statement of the Honorable Dr. Ruth Nankabirwa-Sentamu, who is my immediate ex-Minister of Energy and currently serving as a Senior Presidential Advisor. So permit me to read this verbatim. Excellencies, distinguished organizers and partners, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening from Kampala and a good afternoon to those joining in from New York. Allow me to begin by thanking the organizers for inviting Uganda and me personally to be part of this very important dialogue. Let me also commend the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the World Bank, the UN-Energy, the governments here present, together with all the other partners for convening this very critical and timely discussion and for ensuring that clean cooking remains at the center of this year's high-level Sustainable Development Forum. The timing for this meeting could not have been more important as we enter the final years towards achieving the 2030 agenda. This meeting should remind us that clean cooking remains one of the world's most urgent development challenges. As we are aware, today, 8 to 9 people out of 10 in Africa still lack access to clean cooking, and this situation is true for most of the countries in the sub-Saharan Africa. Yet, we have appreciated over the years implementing the 2030 agenda that clean cooking is not simply about energy. It is multi-sectoral and therefore a powerful accelerator for at least half of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. For me, that's for Dr. Ruth. However, this issue is also deeply personal. Many of you have heard me share the story of my sister Jennifer, who left home to stay with our grandmother and was later to lose her life due to years of exposure to smoke from traditional cooking practices and constrained cooking environments. It was only years later when I became the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development that I connected the dots and fully appreciated the devastating impact of this exposure on human health. Today, we have millions of lives we continue to lose, just like Jennifer, my sister. A reminder to each one of us that behind every statistic that the World Health Organization and government share, there is a mother, a child, a family, and a community whose dignity, health, and future are impacted by the way they are cooking. I therefore take this opportunity to once again salute each one of us who has not only been at the forefront of this effort, many of whom are represented in this call. Shaped by this newfound life lesson, the lesson about clean cooking, I was also honored. I was most honored to be part of the government of Uganda efforts in the recent past that has established an ambitious policy and program for clean cooking transition, and more importantly, to move to translate this commitment into actual implementation. Ladies and gentlemen, Uganda under its program has focused on putting in place the right policies and enabling environment, building institutions, systems, and partnerships that we require to deliver clean cooking at scale in line with our ambition and targets. Working with the government of the UK through FCDO and the MEX program, Uganda established a dedicated national clean cooking unit within the Ministry of Energy to provide national leadership and coordination, and as a paradigm shift in our national delivery mechanism. Also, under my leadership in the ministry developed a national clean cooking strategy based on a practical multi-fuel and multi-technology approach, recognizing that no single solution will meet the diverse needs of every household and institution. Together with partners, including the World Bank, SMAP, MEX, and other partners, we are also implementing one of Africa's most ambitious institutional clean cooking program, transition program, beginning with public institutions such as schools, while also strengthening the broader market system. The ministry is also developing, very importantly, a government-led national clean cooking carbon financing program to unlock financing, and more specifically carbon financing, while leveraging concession of public finance to ensure that clean cooking becomes an integral part of Uganda's national energy transition planning and investment agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, these initiatives demonstrate an important principle that implementation succeeds when countries build strong national institutions, coherent policies, partnerships, and coordinated delivery mechanisms. Progress is faster, more efficient, and more sustainable when governments, development partners, financial institutions, and the private sector work through a nationally coordinated program and platform guided by a single framework and strategy. As we look forward to 2030, I believe the global conversation must now evolve. The question is no longer whether clean cooking technologies work. The question is how we move from commitment to implementation, from pilots and demonstration to national scale programs. And allow me offer a few reflections from my time at the ministry. Number one is countries need to strengthen coordination. The national governments must lead, and partners should align behind nationally owned strategies and coordination mechanisms rather than fragmented interventions. And this, I think, calls for strong coordination across the UN system as a key contributor to this agenda. Secondly, implementation needs to be market-driven and private sector-led, where governments provide the much-needed policy leadership, regulatory certainty, and enabling environment to support the ecosystem. Number three, financing must be clarified and match ambition. And in this regard, Uganda welcomes initiatives such as Mission 300, which are helping countries better define financing needs and streamline processes for resource mobilization to support implementation. Number four, it will be important and critical to focus also on national data and knowledge management systems to support evidence-based delivery mechanisms. And number five, countries must learn from each other. Regional cooperation and South-South collaboration will be important in offering opportunities to share practical experience, strengthen regional markets, support technology transfer, and accelerate implementation across countries and the region. In this regard, therefore, Uganda welcomes the UN Energy Substantive Priority on Clean Cooking and the practical country support mechanisms being launched during this session. These provide an important opportunity to strengthen coordination, improve technical assistance, and align international support behind country-led implementation. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, as we enter the final stretch towards 2030, our collective challenge is no longer defining the problem, but rather building forward. And Uganda remains committed to providing leadership, sharing our experience, and working alongside the United Nations and all the partners to ensure that every household and institution has access to clean, modern, and affordable cooking. I thank you for your kind attention for God and my country. I submit, Madam Chair. That's the statement from the Honorable Ruth.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abbey. And please send our appreciation to the Honorable Nan Kibara, just to say thank you. And these were great words, and it's very nice to hear that her connection and what Uganda is doing on the ground. This is great to capture and hear. So now with this, I would actually like to see, we understand the strong support to drive change on the ground in Uganda, but these efforts have been further supported by development partners like the UK's FCDO. I'd like to now turn to Ms. Lydia John, Team Leader of Energy Access and Energy Access Energy for Development, FCDO, to tell us a little bit more about the ongoing cooperation with Uganda and what were some of the factors that helped enable investment and support on the ground.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Chair. It's a pleasure to speak on behalf of the UK and to co-host this discussion with UN Energy, the World Health Organization, the World Bank, and the governments of Uganda and Liberia. So I think as part of the question in thinking about what is the motivation in sort of driving forward this action, I think it's clear today that clean cooking is where political leadership, innovation, technical support and finance come together. But as the question asks, how do we now move that implementation to also match the ambition? So the UK has a strong and long-term commitment to a just and inclusive transition. And since 2016, we have committed 130 million to accelerate the uptake of modern cooking solutions across Southeast Asia, Africa, and the Indo-Pacific as part of our wider up to £1 billion Ayrton Fund. And as sort of discussed throughout the session, clean cooking is central to health, gender, equality, resilience, livelihoods, and development. But it's becoming increasingly clear that clean cooking must also now be part of wider energy security conversations. The UK promotes electric cooking because electrification and the rise of electrification is the momentum's continuing and accelerating, and clean electricity offers a more secure, affordable, and sustainable route over time. Of course, LPG will remain important in many contexts where it quickly displaces the most harmful fuels. But as demonstrated by recent incidents and impacts of the Middle East around the Strait of Hormuz, it shows how volatile fossil fuel markets leave countries exposed. And that is why the political direction must be to double down on clean and renewable energy, including electricity, as the fastest and most reliable route to secure long-term energy security. So in terms of the UK-Uganda relationship, it shows partnership in practice, and that is part of our new approach to development. I'm proud to sort of say that my minister, Baroness Chapman, was also in Uganda last week to see some of our work in action. Uganda has placed clean cooking within a wider national agenda across health, forests, livelihoods, women's time and energy access, and is integrating it into its electrification journey. A major UK contribution is our Modern Energy Cooking Services programme, which you'll hear from straight after this. We've given 99 million to this programme, delivered through Loughborough University, ESMAP, Clean Cooking Fund and CLASP. And since 2018, the UK has helped over 4.5 million people adopt cleaner and more efficient cooking practices and mobilised over 435 million of public and private investment, which means for more than £10 for every £1 of UK funding. In Uganda, MEX has helped strengthen the policy and regulatory frameworks for modern energy cooking, including integration into national energy planning and electrification strategies. And what's really critical and clear about the UK-Uganda relationship is that the money is delivered through our embassies as part of a demonstration project, which means that the interventions can be closer to the ground. And of that, recently, our High Commission has, alongside MEX, has done a 4.7 million project to help electric cooking practical for households, schools and communities. And we're replicating that model more broadly, particularly with the electrification of services, whether that's schools, hospitals as well, to support that electric cooking model. I think no single actor can deliver this alone, and the UK believes that also. Government set the direction, researchers prove what works, communities shape what is usable, and private firms and financiers scale the viable models. And I think it's critical to sort of play that back as SDG 7 is being analysed for the last time this decade. And it is a moment to reaffirm the political ambition and coordinate support across all sectors so that clean cooking is not viewed as a standalone issue. For the UK, the priority is implementation, country-owned plans, stronger enabling environments, and clear investment cases and practical standards. We are proud to back Mission 300 and ESMAP, which are helping accelerate energy access and make better use of electricity systems and scale clean cooking. Clean cooking action must also be about women as equal participants in design, delivery, entrepreneurship, finance and decision makers, not only as beneficiaries. To conclude, progress happens when political leadership is matched with capable partners, evidence, innovation, and a credible route to scale. And the UK-Uganda relationship is a clear example of that. And the challenge now is to make that route easier for more countries to flow. Governments, MDBs, and institutions must align technical assistance, finance, and political momentum behind country priorities and back what works. And that's why we are proud to back Mission 300 as a clear example of pulling the landscape together. The UK will continue to work with partners bilaterally and multilaterally to achieve our shared 2030 targets. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. John. It's just really great to hear all the great work that the SCDO is supporting and this idea of replication, and this idea of really tapping into researchers, the community, and these aspects, the different elements to really advance this excellence. Now I would like to turn to actually Dr. Ed Brown, professor. We've just heard he's leading the Modern Energy Cooking Solutions program. He is a professor at University of Loughborough, and he leads the MEX program. So Dr. Brown, could you tell us a bit more about the work MEX is doing to support the governments of Uganda and the UK to accelerate progress on clean cooking? And what have been the most important technical, market, evidence, and implementation challenges? Where have partnerships made the biggest difference? That was a lot of questions. Are you ready to?
How long did you say that? The first place I wanted to start, well, firstly, is to thank you for the invitation to be here today. And I think you will have heard already from what Herbert and Lydia have said, that the work that we're doing in Uganda, this is also the case with other countries that we work very closely in, Tanzania represented in the room, Kenya represented in the room, and actually India we're going to hear from later. We work in all of those countries in very similar ways, but different in every single one of them. I think that's important. I think I mentioned in the session earlier on today that the MEX program is in and of itself quite an innovative partnership. So we absolutely value our relationship with Fanny and Michelle and the ESMAP team, and of course, and CLASP, and also the fact that it's an FCDO funded program allows us to do things in, I think, quite different and diverse ways, which allows us to work very differently in each of the countries that we work in, which is so important. But the second thing about partnership is MEX is very proud to be supporting the UN energy drive, and this meeting today is being part of this process. I firmly believe, and MEX firmly believes, in multilateralism and in the role of bringing together UN institutions to bring together the global family to deal with its most intransigent challenges. And clean cooking is clearly one of those most intransigent challenges. And as a geographer professionally, I think also the other factor is that clean cooking, the work that we've done in responding to the challenge set to us by FCDO, is that we work in a very multi-scalar way as well. So, for example, we all know that there are some discussions that take place in these global fora, and these global fora are massively important in helping us to define what we mean by clean cooking, to bring it to the international attention as in terms of the greatest need for funding. It's where we agree how we collect the data on how we are doing and how we evaluate that data, and it's where we thrash out the concepts that allow us to embark upon the future together. It's also a massively important regional issue, and we also work closely with regional organisations. I mentioned this morning our partnership with AFREC, which is absolutely fundamental and central to the work that we're doing in sub-Saharan Africa. We're able to work with individual countries and their organizations to collect data and statistics, and we work carefully with them in order to deliver a roadmap for the continent that will be based upon those individual national circumstances. Similarly, with the World Bank, we're working with their regional programs. We're working with Ascent, funded through UNEP. Some collaborations that we're doing there to support Ascent's work on the electric cooking in institutions that we were just hearing about, and also to support the IGPHF Clean Air program in South Asia. And of course, it's a national challenge, as we've been hearing about today. I think in terms of reflecting that national challenge, the majority of the work that MEX has done has been in country, in individual locations, working with individual stakeholders or with multiple groups of stakeholders. Over the course of our program since 2018, we've worked in 29 different countries in a whole variety of different ways. And I think the other part of that also is understanding what the experiences of other countries can teach, but also what it can't teach. So I think also we need to be very careful about too loose lessons that are drawn from other countries' experiences. For example, there are lots of really important lessons to be learned from the Brazilian, Indian and Indonesian transitions via LPG. One is the lessons we were learning today about targeting and about the importance of targeting assistance and how we can learn, I think, some really important lessons from earlier transitions. On the other hand, we also know that many countries have ended up with very, very high bills in support of the transition to clean cooking, which are now very difficult to escape from. So I think those kinds of comparative perspectives are also really important. Finally, though, I come to the real work at national level. And delighted to see Paul Mabuti in the room as well. We've worked really closely with the Kenyan government over many, many years, and I could have been talking around the Kenyan collaboration or indeed the Tanzanian collaboration. But obviously today, this is a program that we want to discuss, the program that we've been working on in Uganda. I think Lydia and Herbert have already explained a great deal around how that collaboration works, but perhaps I could just say a little bit more about how this scale and support for electric cooking program has been working in Uganda. And we're really excited by how that program has developed. It is come out of the research that we've done that I've just been talking about over the last 5 or 6 years, where we've established a whole set of kind of preconditions or jigsaw pieces that need to be in place for an electric cooking transition to take hold within a country and to scale. And what we've derived from that is, one, the importance of working really closely with the utility, and for the utility to take ownership of the potential for demand enhancement that can come from electric cooking, and also the potential impacts on the grid of that, and the need to work carefully with the utility with regard to that. Secondly, however, we need the supply chain in place in order to provide electric cooking appliances globally. We're doing a lot of work on that, supporting investments into new and emerging companies like Burn and ATEC and Health&Energy and others that are working in this space. But we're also working on initiatives like SAMPA, which is an attempt to draw in resources for the bulk purchasing of electric cooking appliances. It's also around building standards within countries so that people know that they're buying appliances that work. It's about building the capacity for repair and maintenance. So we've also been supporting the Ugandan government in repair and maintenance. And finally, it's about awareness raising and institutions. Thank you very much.
I know we're running really late on time, but there's just so many exciting things happening. We have to talk about them all. We had to travel one more continent, and that's where we're making our trip around the world. And we're going to now turn our attention to India, in fact. And we have our partner, another colleague working. I would like to turn to Mr. Harneth, a World Bank environmental engineer working in the state of Uttar Pradesh, so a different level of governance. So we can look at how we can translate national plans at a more local level. To hear about what they're doing in Uttar Pradesh and advancing the implementation of clean cooking with the support of different partners and on the ground, and how to really realize results. So over to you, Mr. Harnath.
Thank you, Heather, and then good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Harinath. I am part of the air quality management team working across South Asia, especially Indo-Gangetic Plains and Himalayan foothills. So the intervention that I am trying to highlight here is the support that we received through SMAP and also MECS and WHO in designing a clean cooking component in our ongoing project on Uttar Pradesh Clean Air Management and Pollution Management Project. So this project is a $300 million program, which is essentially supporting state of Uttar Pradesh in India, which is largest state, both in terms of population and in area, in reducing the air pollution, both ambient air and then indoor air quality. So SMAP has actually helped us in designing this clean cooking component, part of this whole air quality management program, primarily focusing on three main activities. It's essentially supports in reducing the PM 2.5 emissions, especially in the indoor air quality, by supporting enabling environment for clean cooking through building capacity, entrepreneurs development, social mobilization, and behavioral change. It also supports strengthening the government systems to deliver clean cooking or sustainable and then long-term delivery systems. So it's a $5 million SMAP support. But even to design this component, SMAP has actually helped us first bring in the global knowledge and also give the operational guidance and the international experience on essentially designing the clean cooking component. This actually made sure that the component when we design is ready for implementation. And another important aspect that SMAP helped us was basically to bring in this partnership approach, essentially to bring all the stakeholders across the entire regional airshed, because the air pollution here in this part of South Asia is contributed across a regional airshed called Indo-Gangetic Plain, where air pollution moves around and then contaminates air from different sources. And this partnership essentially made sure that we got the industry partners, the government collaborators, and also the development partners on a single platform, not just in Uttar Pradesh, but in the entire Indo-Gangetic airshed. So this included other states like Bihar, which is neighboring state of Uttar Pradesh, and then West Bengal, again part of the same Gangetic Plains, and then Delhi and Haryana, the other two states in the region. So all of these actually, so in a way, this partnership has not just helped design a component in UP, the state of Uttar Pradesh, but also the neighboring states. Then when we come to the second partner, MECS actually helped us to learn from the international experience, not just experience and expertise, to different cooking technologies and particularly electric cooking and emerging digital solutions in the clean cooking. So this actually helped us to broaden the design rather than traditional clean cooking, because as some of you know, clean cooking solutions are being implemented in India for quite some time, but this actually helped us to design much more innovative and then new technologies. And the third partner who was very helpful in this whole program was WHO, World Health Organization, who actually helped us to especially convince the policymakers with an evidence on impacts of households, and then how health awareness and behavioral change can be powerful driver for change in air, and improving the indoor air quality. So this whole collaboration has actually helped us to design this clean cooking component in the UP camp. That's how the abbreviation for the UP Clean Air Program, we call it as UP camp, to make improvements in indoor air quality for the targeted households of about 5 million households. So it's an overall state government program where the World Bank supports as part of the results-based financing mechanism. So in a way, the whole program with 5 million SMAP funding, the program is helping to translate provide clean cooking solutions to over 5 million households in the state. So that's a larger impact. The program has just been approved last month. That means effective. Like the project was approved in December, but the program got effective from all legal perspective last month, June 6th. And then so program has just started implementation. So we don't have results as yet, but we do have an innovative program, which is basically helping the state of Uttar Pradesh to pilot this program and scale it up within the state, but also as helping other neighboring states to scale up this program as part of our larger dialogue on air quality improvement across the Indo-Gangetic Plains. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank you again. Let's give another warm round of applause for all the things. With that, you're all tired of hearing me talk, so I'd like to now turn the table to our next moderator. Penny, over to you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies, I realize we're running extremely late. So we are committed to making this up, but we'll be probably running over by about 10 minutes. So I'd like to kindly ask all the subsequent speakers to just keep it to 1 or 2 points that you want to bring across. So we're shifting the table, we're moving from the countryside, what's interesting on the ground, the stories on the ground, to what UN Energy can actually deliver and do. And want to extend, the possibility for all UN Energy partners to voice what they are planning to do and want to work on. Due to time constraint, we'll first turn to Riyad Medek, the director of the Sustainable Energy Hub Bureau for Policy and Program Support, Global Policy Network of UNDP. He's also the co-chair of UN Energy. Mr. Medek will speak not only to the work of UNDP towards the Clean Cooking Country Action Platform, but also to the importance of clean cooking to the UN Energy community. And sustainable energy agenda more broadly. Over to you, Mr. Medek.
Thank you very much, Annie. So impressed the way that you call me Mr. But we are between friends and we all know each other here. So thank you for inviting me and thank you for allowing me to start first. And I apologize because I have another panel at 3. But let me start with one clear question. What kind of energy transition, which is the grid, the data centers, the electrical vehicles, but still does not reach the kitchen? Simple. What kind of electricity? What's happening? What we heard is, and you can correct me, Chila, that the world is investing $2.2 trillion in the energy transition, while data center electricity demand is projected more than double, reaching the equivalent of the consumption of Japan. Yet 2 billion people still cook with polluting fuels. 1.8 billion people are projected to remain without clean cooking by 2030. What a disaster. And Hans Olav, as pessimistic as usual, we can feel it coming again year after year talking about it. Achieving universal
was actually Ed.
But I read in your mind.
I know the pessimism had.
But how's it feeling optimistic after Norway wins and
Let them to continue to go and we can see. It's not finished. So achieving universal access, and here the numbers are important for me, requires 8 billion annually, okay? By contrast, the cost of inaction is $2.4 trillion, roughly $300 in health, productivity, environment loss for every dollar. So what I keep saying, we are paying trillion to avoid spending billions. Is it acceptable? This is what we want to do after all the advocacies. We are paying trillion to avoid billions. This is really ridiculous. This is not a technology gap. It is a delivery gap. That's it. It is absolutely not a technology gap. The resources and solutions exist. We have the proof. So the question is, why is a solution that saves lives, frees women time, and protect the planet still not being delivered at scale? Despite all the advocacy of UN Energy and all the other partners. Let me frame this around 3 shifts. First, positioning clean cooking as a development accelerator. Household air pollution caused 2.9 million deaths in 2021, including 309,000 children under 5, while women and girls continue to bear the burden of fuel collection and smoke exposure. But clean cooking is a proven opportunity for scale. We just heard an example from Uttar Pradesh. Sorry?
Can you please point?
Yes. 2010, India, China, Indonesia have driven 80% of the global reduction. A major opportunity is to make public institutions early markets for clean cooking. In school electric cans, cuts cost 26 to 85% in Tanzania and Uganda. Second, leveraging AI and GIS and a better data to move from blind delivery to target delivery. Over 2 billion people without clean cooking access. 1.5 live in rural area, and the top 20 access deficit country account for around 3/4 of the global gap. AI and GIS can identify underserved community, and it is happening in the case of Nigeria, where they use GIS mapping to support mini-grid deployment in underserved area. In the case of Uganda, clean cooking investment prospectus show how better data can have structural opportunities to finance the delivery. Using geospatial analytics can make a real difference. And the third point, moving from pledges to investable national delivery system. The 2024 conference Clean Cooking Summit mobilized 2.2 billion with around pledges, with around only 470 million already dispersed. Yet the financing gap remains significant, but government spending on clean cooking across 100 largest access deficit country total just 385 million between 2022 and 2024, excluding electricity infrastructure. Country can accelerate delivery through blended finance and targeted subsidies, and it's the case of Ghana with its LPG program. Thank you very much.
Now we'll turn to Heather Adair-Rouhani, who will give us a brief description of the support that WHO can provide for this clean cooking and reaction platform. Over to you, Heather.
Sure, and I realize I can talk really fast, and now there's a challenge on, okay? So indeed, it was the WHO, indeed, we had say clean, and maybe you all may not recognize, but actually WHO's guidelines for indoor air quality guideline for household fuel combustion actually define what can be considered clean or not, because we really use epidemiological evidence. So our biggest added value, I would say, is there in the actual Clean Households Energy Solutions Toolkit, which really provides the tools and resources for a rapid stakeholder mapping and situational assessment. It gives you the tools and know-how to do actually a cost-benefit analysis, looking at up to 12 different interventions, looking at the costs of health, climate, social costs in terms of time loss, et cetera. So countries can really evaluate. We have guidance for standard setting using the ISO standards and the health guidelines themselves, so countries can really start labeling schemes and really creating their own national standards. And we also have a Read Life campaign and other community and awareness raising activities, so we can really support that behavior change that is necessary that we've been talking about. And one final thing, because I know I only have 1 or 2 minutes, so I've exceeded a lot, is the health sector itself. We have health sector training. You would be kind of surprised to know that there's maybe I think less than about 5 medical schools in this world that actually teach about air pollution and health. So we are actually really working in these past few years to develop health sector training materials. So we have special modules specifically on household air pollution and the health risks, as well as a module that's specifically for health sector training on what are the solutions, so that we can get doctors to really be advocating in the clinic, in the community, and decision making. So please check out CHEST. We've got videos, whole few videos that describe them all of the different modules in there, and it's a great opportunity for the contribution that the health sector can make. Thank you.
We'll be excited to work more with you on leveraging the health sector also for energy purposes. With that, let me turn over to Ms. Michaela Morese. She's here to tell us about the work FAO plans to contribute to the Clean Cooking and the Action Platform. Over to you, Michaela.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Fania. Thank you to the co-organizers for inviting me in this discussion. So with my intervention, I would like to complement, let's say, with the agri-food focus, what we've heard so far regarding the health focus, because they go hand in hand in a complementary manner. And what I mean with the agri-food focus as connected to clean cooking is really not only focus on farmers who are the producers of the feedstock, which is used for as an engine, let's say, for the clean cooking when they are based on bioenergy technology based. And on the other side, also the clean cooking as used for in terms of food security and nutrition security kind of approach. What do I mean with this? Energy, climate change, agri-food systems are strictly interconnected. We know food security is an important component, and clean cooking is a key solution for this nexus. But why I'm focusing on food security and nutrition security? Because from our studies, there is a very strict connection between the two. In terms of clean cooking, enabling preparation of a wider variety of food, for example. If we think about the ability of clean cooking to cook harder to prepare food like beans, for example. So there are families that normally they do allow, they are allowed through the use of wood fuel to cook beans only once a week, for example, because it takes time, and the wood that you require to cook beans, it's a lot. And then in light of this, you may find yourself to cook for your family only once a week beans. And we know the nutrition capacity of leguminous for a family. And in addition to this, also clean cooking improve and increase the food digestibility of these kind of food. Last but not least, also the connection between clean cooking and food sanitation in terms of water and food sanitation for the preparation of food. So, in summary, how can we contribute to the clean cooking priority within the UN-Energy family? For sure, adding this agri-food component on one side. Definitely through assessments. So what we've been doing to contribute to the clean cooking thematic area is to assess the options of renewable energy for the context specificity of countries that are asking our support in order to identify options for clean cooking. For example, in Rwanda, we identified that 1 in 3 households in Rwanda could have access to clean cooking if they could make use of residues of crops, livestock, and wood residues that are available in the country. So 33% additional clean cooking use in the country, which is about 400,000 households in the country. We've been working together with UNDP in Solomon Islands, in Gambia, so it's already an example of cooperation within the UNDP family on biogas from livestock manure. We've been working on a bioethanol-focused study for clean cooking in Africa, and we've done the same for Asia. And one difference that I would like to highlight is that while in Africa, several countries have clean cooking in their NDCs, ethanol for clean cooking in their NDCs or policies, in Asia they don't. So it's a kind of a spin that we can think about. And last but certainly not least, also our work for policy support, like here again, an example of cooperation within UN-Energy. So it's FAO together with the UNDP and with the support of UNEP, we developed this report on advancing clean cooking for clean climate action. So we've done a kind of a planning map of countries that have clean cooking into their NDCs. And in addition to this, where this is missing, what could be the policy recommendation in order to go further into the path of clean cooking? Very last point, also through events we could contribute. So for example, 2 weeks ago, I was in Panama with about 200 people from the region, but all over the world, from the Americas, but all over the world. And one of for a bioenergy week focused on bioenergy priorities of the region, and clean cooking was one of the sessions that we focused on, where the discussions revealed that despite from the numbers could be, and the World Bank report on Latin America soon will tell us more about the region, there is still a lot to be invested also in the Latin American country region in terms of clean cooking. So happy to join forces even more than how we've done so far. Thank you so much.
Great to see the clean cooking and food system linkages laid out so succinctly. Now let's turn to another UN Energy partner. I would like to ask Mark Gibson from the Global Platform for Action for Energy Access in Displaced Populations to take the floor. He's with us online. Over to you, Mark. And I'm very sorry to be having to ask you to keep your remarks brief. Apologies for that.
Good afternoon.
Oh, I think we cannot hear you for some reason.
Hello, hello.
Yes, much better.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Good afternoon. Good evening to you all. And thank you for inviting me to speak today. And I've shortened my response so as not to delay your access to afternoon tea. Clean cooking is one of the most urgent but still under prioritized energy challenges in displacement settings. For many refugees and internally displaced households, cooking still depends on firewood, charcoal, basic biomass stoves, or unsustainable fuel distribution networks that are expensive and environmentally damaging. The scale of the gap is significant. Around 15 million forcibly displaced people lack access to clean cooking, including 11 million refugees and 39 million internally displaced people. If the forcibly displaced were considered as a country, they would represent the 9th largest population globally without access to clean cooking, sitting between Tanzania and Uganda. Yet clean cooking in displacement settings is too often treated as an add-on to food assistance, shelter, or environmental programming, rather than as a core part of dignified humanitarian response and long-term resilience. The challenge is that clean cooking projects are difficult to get right. There is no single technology that works everywhere, nor one business model to deliver sustainable solutions. LPG, ethanol, biogas, electric cooking, higher-tier improved biomass stoves, institutional cooking systems, and hybrid approaches can all have a role, but only when they fit the local market, policy environment, local cooking practices, affordability levels, and supply chains. Too many projects are focused on distributing products rather than building sustainable cooking services and markets. Too many rely on short-term pilots without a pathway to scale or look after sales support, quality assurance, monitoring, and meaningful community engagement. The result is fragmentation, small projects, limited evidence, duplication, and solutions that often disappear when grant funding ends. This is where the GPA plays a practical and strategic role. The GPA helps partners move from isolated projects to coordinated, evidence-based and scalable approaches. We support partners to understand what has been tried, what has worked, what has not worked, and why. A key part of the GPA's role is convening. We bring together relevant stakeholders and end users so that clean cooking solutions are not designed as isolation. We also support advocacy and policy influences. Displaced populations should not be treated as temporary exemptions outside of national systems, particularly when many displacement situations last for years or decades. Finally, the GPA helps partners work through financing and delivery solutions. Grant funding remains important, especially for the most vulnerable households, but it's not enough on its own. Clean cooking in displacement settings needs smarter use of public finance. blended finance, results-based financing, carbon finance, targeted subsidies, pay-as-you-go models, and de-risking mechanisms that can make the markets viable while protecting affordability and equity. The core message is simple. Clean cooking in displacement settings is not a marginal humanitarian concern. It is central to the health, protection, climate, livelihoods, and dignity of those that have been left behind. But it would not be but it will not be solved through one-off distributions or short-term pilots. It requires context-specific solutions, stronger coordination, better data, inclusive policy, sustainable finance, and serious engagement with communities and markets. Thank you very much for your time, and back to you.
Thank you very much, Mark, for these really important remarks. And I think that we should leave no one behind. I think it's a message we take out from these meetings today and also yesterday. Let me now turn to Sheila, the Director of Energy International Network on Gender and Sustainable Energy and co-convener of the Gender and Energy Compact, for her additional remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, Fanny. I promise not to take more than 3 minutes. I was asked to speak about why I feel that clean cooking transition will only succeed if it's gender transformative. And I'd like to respond to this question with a few data points, evidence, and just experience of solutions on the ground. So the first, I'll start with the IEA's latest analysis that showed that affordability is now one of the principal barriers preventing households from making and sustaining the transition to clean cooking fuel. This is work that was published early this year. But most importantly, they showed that the most successful initiatives that address this challenge at scale, such as PMUY in India, but also initiatives in Nigeria, were those whose financial instruments intentionally and directly targeted women. But affordability, beyond affordability, we know clean cooking solutions are only effective if they're consistently used. And here, research published in the from Africa and South Asia in Science Direct and other peer-reviewed journals show that when women have greater decision-making and control over household expenditure and investments, families are more likely to adopt and sustain clean cooking solutions. Importantly, adoption is not a one-time transaction. It is a behavioral transition. So it takes time. And we do have experience from WHO, from Clean Cooking Alliance, and from NDEV that recognize the important role of female community health workers in building trusted relationships within communities, making them very effective in raising awareness about household air pollution, demonstrating correct use of stoves, and promoting sustained adoption of clean cooking solutions and fuels. At the same time, for millions of women, cooking is also a business. Through our own program, our Women Economic Empowerment Program, we have supported 19,000 women entrepreneurs across Asia and Africa who have delivered clean energy solutions to over 9 million consumers, including clean cooking. But aside from our experience, we have a growing cohort of private sector actors, including some of the largest companies in the sector, Burn Manufacturing and BioLite, who are now intentionally recruiting women across their operations, not just in administration, but in manufacturing, engineering, sales, and distributions. And if you go to their companies, you can see these. These companies have publicly highlighted their commitment to a gender-balanced workforce. Why? Because they're reporting benefits ranging from stronger customer engagement and satisfaction, market penetration, to improved product design and more effective after sales, all of which we know are necessary for sustained uptake at scale. We also have proof of concept from resource-based financing, not least from the Netherlands RBO, Higher Tier Cooking Program, and Just a program that's making, again, the business case for women in the distribution chain. And just to mention that the concept of resource-based financing first came from Energy Plus, where we had a very interesting discussion with Hans about engaging women in resource-based financing. But aside from that, not just in supply chains of clean cooking, But we also find research from FAO, from MEX, from Shell Foundation has shown that clean cooking is critical to women's productive uses of energy. For millions of women in food and agri-processing, where heat-dependent activities are central to livelihoods, we find modern clean cooking solutions improve productivity, reduce operation costs, increase productivity, and support business growth. So let me now move to the macroeconomic level. And this comes from a conversation we're having with IDRC. Clean cooking is increasingly becoming recognized as a critical component of the care economy. We know that women disproportionately shoulder the burden of unpaid care work, including from the collection, procurement, and management of traditional polluting fuels. And this structural inequality limits their participation in the formal economy, leading to massive loss in global GDP. As more countries start adopting care-focused policies, and with a growing momentum around a regional care framework within the African Union, multilateral organizations, including collaborations from Fanny, your organization, the World Bank, together with UN Women, as well as the work of IDRC, are helping to reposition clean cooking as a core economic investment that promotes gender equality and inclusive development beyond the energy sector to a much larger issue. Finally, when women are more effectively participate in the design of enabling environment, policies are more likely to reflect their lived experiences priority. The Gender and Energy Compact and the Working Group on Gender Indicators in Sustainable Energy, where we have a cohort of excellent, exciting, ambitious women, and not least to mention Samantha, Fanny, yourself, and myself as well. We work in close collaboration in what we feel are really transformative partnerships, multilaterals, NGOs, others coming together. One is to strengthen gender and energy data, and I think we are really in the forefront of talking about what the post-2030 agenda is looking at. We've taken the forerun in the SDG 7 tag, and also supporting gender responsive programming. In closing, I would like to congratulate the 11 member states, including those in the room, Norway, the UK, the Netherlands, exceptional, but we also had Lesotho, Sudan, Senegal, and Iran, who made clear remarks about women's leadership and agency in their interventions in yesterday's formal review of SDG 7 and its interlinkages. It's this demonstration of political will that I believe we can build on and will drive equitable, sustainable solutions for delivering clean cooking for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila, for these really important remarks on the linkages of gender and clean cooking, without which success cannot be achieved. Let me then turn over to Hans Olaf, who will present the closing remarks of the session.
Yeah, thank you. I've not been following your discussions fully, but I'm really encouraged from what I've heard so far, both from receiving countries and from our development partners. If you allow me just to start off with a small reflection. From years ago, we only had 15 to 20 people in the room discussing clean cooking, and now we actually have a full room, be it in Paris, Addis Ababa, or here in New York. And we had actually planned to be in Nairobi this week for the summit on clean cooking in Africa. Unfortunately, we had to postpone that one, but I'm quite sure we would have had several thousand actually attending that event. We made progress both on the ground as well as politically. I'm going to focus more on the political dimensions, and at the same time, since some of you have said that my glass is always half empty, I'm going to kick a little bit some legs towards the end there, because I would like to see a little bit more action from all of us into this area. I've said several times that since 2010 we've actually made good progress. 1.7 billion have actually gained access, but we still have a long way to go, especially in Africa. the political attention that we now have has probably not been fully translated into action. So the question then is whether we have political leadership, because money is not really flowing where it should flow. If this had been a real priority, then I think more governments would have actually allocated increasing resources to clean cooking. In Paris 2 years ago, we mobilized 2.2 billion. 740 million has already been dispersed. Tomorrow at the virtual Clean Cooking Summit, new commitments to the tune of about 900 million will be announced, and there's more to come from the partners that we already are in discussing with. On the fuel issue, which is of course being addressed here as well, we call for an off-the-fuel strategy, and it's up to the governments to decide their fuel strategy. I think many of us donors, we have our own fuel strategies that are not necessarily in line with what some of the receiving governments would like to get. But I think we need to be honest and say that we need all technologies and fuels, because the most important thing at the end of the day is actually to save lives. And we also know that whatever we do will be good also for climate and gender equality and for development efforts. We need to continue the leadership we've seen from the G20 countries, Brazil, South Africa, and now also increasingly positive notes from the US. I think that should be also noted in this setting, that the Energy Secretary Chris Wright is personally into this, and he will be attending our summit tomorrow and give a live statement. So if you can tune in at 8 o'clock tomorrow, New York time, to listen to the various statements, then at least you will see their commitment from the US to this agenda as well. And I think that's positive, because we, as development professionals, we need to find a way also working with the government in this country. International organizations, IEA is really providing leadership on this issue, because they can discuss all fuels. It's a little bit more difficult for IRENA, so it's a renewable energy, so they can only discuss the renewable side. Basically, some would call it the clean side. The World Bank is stepping up. I would have liked to see the World Bank stepping up even further. We managed to get clean cooking into IDA 21, but it didn't really come from the World Bank proper itself. We were really pushing hard together with some other colleagues in order to get that as a priority. And within the M300 compacts, we also see that clean cooking is now included, I think, in nearly all compacts. But still, I think the messaging need to be a little bit stronger on this. So that was a small kick in the leg to Dimitrios and Fanny and the rest of the World Bank team. The UN, I'm actually not sure when I'm reading through the UN Energy Work Program. I haven't been able to Google it because I don't have it electronically. And the only thing I'm good at is actually Googling or asking. And I think I found 2 references to clean cooking. And I would have liked to see a much stronger UN coming out on this area than I've seen in this current document. So there is actually scope to do here in this town and in other UN capitals that we can get a little bit more emphasis on clean cooking from the UN side. So that was a final kick in the leg to my UN Energy colleagues. And for Norway, we will stay the course. That's what the Prime Minister will say tomorrow in this taped intervention. And we will then continue to provide funding to clean cooking. Of course, there are a lot of competing demands that applies to all of us these days. So that means that we need to make the case for clean cooking. Even though Riyadh just stepped out, but I don't believe in this trillions benefits that's going to make headway in all capitals. I think we need to come up with some other good arguments and not only focus on the larger numbers, because at the end of the day, this is an area that needs to be prioritized. And I would also like to commend the leadership I've seen from colleagues on the screen here and from developing countries that know they are enacting new policies and taking action. So let's build on that leadership. Thank you.
So thank you very much, everyone, for this excellent session. I want to really commend the audience for their endurance sitting through. But I think it was fully worthwhile. And I think as a commitment of all of us here in the room to do more on clean cooking, I would suggest we do a rowing.
You can sit. We can stand. Okay, and I'll do 2 knocks and then I say roll.
And it's not gonna roll.
Get ready.
Roll.
Twice.
Ready?
Roll. 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 Roll.
Mark, you weren't joining in.
No.
I'm sorry, England's still in, so. Yeah.
I think he's gonna go to the penalties.
Doesn't like me anyway.
I keep thinking it's right.